Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Cosmic Conversations. I'm your host, Marla Martenson, and I have a very special guest today. Her name is Diane Ray, one of my favorite radio people. Diane has been working in radio broadcasting for over 30 years, since she first cracked the mic at age 19 at WSHE. She's only rock and roll in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. For their amateur hour. She worked most of her on-air radio career in the Miami market with stops in Austin, Texas, and San Diego. But for over a decade, Diane's been working in digital media and online broadcasting as the network manager and producer at Hay House Radio. You may know her voice from there. That's where I know her from. And director of programming for UnityOnlineRadio.org since 2017. And she launched the Be Present Diane Ray Show in August 2018 to continue the conversations she was having over at Hay House and bring some new people and ideas to the forefront. So if you like talking spirituality, mediumship, metaphysics, philosophy, past lives, reincarnation, you're in the right place because that's what she talks about. So welcome, Diane.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Oh my gosh, yes, it's so exciting.
This is so fun.
It's so fun. And you guys, guess what? I'm going to be on Diane's show, so I'll put the link to that. I don't know if this will be up in time, but I'll put that link in. And so just tell us what it's been like, how you made that shift from, into the spiritual platform and how it's changed, because now it seems like everybody's an angel communicator, everybody's a healer or a shaman. So just talk about that a little bit.
Wow, well, it's been quite the journey. I mean, from, rock DJ to what I'm doing now, but it's been so fun. Just kind of getting into the spiritual space. How that happened was I was working at KPBS here in San Diego, just as a presenter. You can't really say a DJ at KPBS because you're not really, introducing songs or anything, so it was like, support for KPBS comes from listeners like you. So I was doing that for about a year and working with the great people over there, and I saw an ad on Monster that said radio producer for Hay House. And I was familiar with Hay House because I was a big fan of Louise Hay and Wayne Dyer, and I had like the self-help section on my bookshelf at home. So I investigated, and they were just kind of getting into launching a radio network for all of their authors. So I lobbied for that position, and I got that about 12 years ago. And I spent 11 years there just kind of soaking up everything, learning about digital media, taking my background from traditional radio, which we call terrestrial, sounds kind of funny, and then moving that into the digital space that I'm in now. So I've been doing that for the past 12 years now. And then just 2 years ago, came over to help Unity, the wonderful people at Unity, kind of revamp and launch their radio network. So it was just kind of a shift, but interestingly, the rock personalities that I came in contact with in my radio days are not that different from a lot of the personalities that I've come in contact with in this space. It's like just a little bit different. But big personality people.
Right.
So it's been so great, to work with some of those amazing teachers and learn and soak up all that stuff. Like I was the weird kid, that had the tarot cards and played around with that kind of stuff and just always interested in spirituality and yoga and metaphysics and all of those things. So it's been wonderful to be able to combine that into what I'm doing now.
Yeah, that is so cool. And I've always been into, I had a witch club when I was a kid and a witch name. But I never, because we didn't have internet or anything back, I grew up in the 60s and 70s. And there was no, I never had any tarot cards. I never played with a Ouija board. I never had any of that around me. But I still was like in the woods doing my little spells or something, So it's interesting. And I'm always kind of jealous when somebody tells me, yeah, I picked up some tarot cards at age 10 because I just started learning 2 years ago.
Well, I would play with them. I didn't really know what they were. And I was probably the girl at the slumber party, like, let's do the seance, and that kind of thing. So I was always interested in, I don't know, the ghost stories and things like that. It just always fascinated me. Yeah. So it's been fun to learn about that and really learn from some amazing teachers. In honor of our our talk today. I'm even wearing my Be Here Now t-shirt.
Oh, Be Here Now.
See it.
Awesome.
I'm a big Ram Dass fan too.
Yes, I have that book, Be Here Now. And it's interesting how Hay House has, now you see a lot of books on witches, and they've got that one woman there's a woman who's doing can't think of her name, a whole series, online program about it, and she's an attorney and a witch, and it's getting more into some deeper stuff than the, Doreen Virtue type of stuff, more.
Right.
Some more occult
stuff. Well, there's a lot of interest.
Yes, that just shows that there's a lot of interest in this stuff.
Yeah, people are exploring, I think, and looking for different ways to express their spirituality, and maybe they were brought up in a very rigid tradition that doesn't quite resonate with them anymore, and there's just so much wisdom out there to learn from and soak up.
And I used to listen to they still have it on the replays of Wayne Dyer's show, and you were hosting his.
Yeah, I was his Ed McMahon.
Yeah, talk a little bit about what it was like, working with him. I don't know anybody who doesn't love Wayne Dyer.
His second banana is what I like to say. The interesting thing about working with Dr. Dyer, he was so well known and wrote so many books and was just so beloved, but he really did love to do that radio show, and it always amazed me because he looked forward to it. He's like, I just love this, we would connect with him in Hawaii, and he would do the show, every Monday. So for 8 years, every Monday, that was what I looked forward to. And it was just so great to be able to kind of sit back and listen. I mean, I always tried to just be the facilitator and let people talk with him because I knew they wanted to talk to him and not me. I was like just the person making it happen, so I'd just step away. But I would always marvel at, how people would be so touched in just having those conversations with him. And that's one of the reasons why I've tried to make kind of the live radio element still accessible on what I'm doing with Unity. I don't know if I'm outdated in this, but I still think that live radio can be very powerful, and reaching people and making that personal connection makes a difference. And even today I hear from people that listen to some of those old shows and they'll say, Dr. Dyer told me to write that book and, do really what I love, and I'm doing it. And so I've seen things come full circle, and it really did make an impact. So that's really, that's nice to see.
Right, and even now, I'm a Hay House junkie. I have the app. I listen to it every day. I do a lot of courses with a lot of the authors and everything. And sometimes somebody will be doing a radio show on Hay House talking about Wayne Dyer, and then it's a medium or something. Oh, I just got a message from Wayne, or he said this or something, which is kind of cool. Like he's still included in there live,
Oh, yeah. Oh, he's a big presence. I mean, he looms large for sure. I mean, and especially at the time that I left. I mean, it was so shocking at the time that he passed because he had just been there in Southern California the week before, and I picked him up where he was staying because he wanted to do the show. I was surprised that he was traveling and he was going to go to New Zealand right after that visit to California, and then he passed right after he came back from that trip to New Zealand and Australia. And it was just so shocking. But I remember talking to him. I picked him up at the Chopra Center, and I would joke with him and say, "Oh, you're the hardest working man in showbiz," and because he loved it. He loved to travel and talk to people, and he still had a lot of plans. Like he wasn't finished by any stretch.
I remember him saying,
such a shock.
I remember him saying, though, on maybe it was with you on the show, I have such a sense of urgency now to keep doing my work, and it's a sense of urgency. Well, he was getting older, but nobody knew he would pass. But yeah, and the way he passed, just like that in his sleep, that's real like a saint. It
was really quick. And then the other kind of bizarre twist was that just 2 years later, Louise Hay passed on the same day.
On the same day, was she sick or did she pass very quick? Or
well, she was 92, God love her. So
right.
It was kind of a decline over about a year or so that things kind of declined. But she was healthy. For a long time, the whole time that I was there, she was still very involved in, the books that got signed and the authors that she was passionate about. And, she would still sit in meetings sometimes and, offer her 2 cents. So she was still very much involved in what was going on, but just it always kind of freaked me out that
the same day,
that
2 years
same
the same day.
I think August 30th, I think it was.
Yeah, it's coming up again. And the CEO,
crazy.
Reed Tracy, what a great guy. I've never met him, but I see him, when he's interviewing on some of these, he's on some of these online courses that I take, and he jumps in and talks and does things. I mean, just such a down-to-earth, cool guy,
Yeah, just kind of just sharing his knowledge. And it's interesting because that kind of developed over just a few years. Like I never thought he was comfortable kind of being front and center. He was always so supportive of Wayne and all of the other authors and speakers. So I never thought he would be comfortable, doing that. But he's kind of stepped into that role and seems to be really enjoying it and helping new authors to launch their platforms. And he's really passionate about that. And he was really close with Wayne. I mean, I know that was such a blow.
Yes. I think they were best
friends.
friends.
So
Wayne had
close.
said they talk every day. They were best friends. That's what he said.
They did. And some interesting little tidbits about Wayne. Like, I don't think people knew that, he was very funny and had kind of a, body sense of humor. So in between breaks on the show, he would kind of make jokes, and we would tease him about his coffee enemas and stuff like that. He would share that information.
He'd say, I had my coffee today and I didn't drink it, or he'd say like,
he would call it star butts, just like kind of corny stuff, but just very funny. Like, people wouldn't think a spiritual teacher would kind of have that, silly side, and he was just such a great father and loved his kids so much, and he had 8 children, was so very supportive of everything that they did, all of their projects. And I was like, oh, I wish you were my dad.
I know, isn't that great?
I guess he was, though, in a way, kind of everybody's dad.
The father of, what did they call it?
Motivation,
Motivation, the father of motivation. Yeah, so who are some other of your favorite people that you got close to over there?
Oh, I love Denise Lynn, Carolyn Mace, John Holland, James Von Prague. Doreen, of course, she played a big part of
Yes,
that
was everybody's
years that I was there.
About that, and it's too bad. I feel heartbroken over it because it's like we lost somebody because she's completely different now. So it was just just the message changed, kind of drastically. But I mean, she was definitely a big part of the family, when I was there, and contributed a lot. And I mean, she's got, I still listen to some of the old shows, and the help that she gave people. I mean, the advice that came through was just phenomenal.
Yeah.
It's like, oh my gosh, and so it was. Still, people are talking about it.
Great. It was the only place I think that you would work where people would come in and say, oh, I have a message for you, or something like that.
Oh, yeah,
you talk to people and they would share a message. I mean, I never asked anybody. I always felt that wasn't, if you're working in a business sense, you wouldn't say, hey, is my mother around, or that kind of thing.
Hey, James.
But I remember when my mother passed in 2007, and just, people would be so supportive. And I remember Denise Lynn saying, the day that you leave this earth is as important as the day that you arrive. And I always remembered that, so I always kind of marked that the day that she passed was November 1st. But you just kind of look at things in a different way, and I don't look at death as a scary thing anymore.
Right.
After talking to all these people,
like John Holland and James Von Prague, and bringing in people. I know Denise's daughter Meadow. She used to live very close to me, and I would babysit her cats when she'd go on vacation. And Meadow is
did?
Yeah, she's just as lovely as her mom. I mean, the same personality, and just great.
So sweet. Yeah, and a new mom too. Her little boy is I think, 8 months.
She moved.
Isn't that great?
She moved away from here, LA, and then I saw on social media that she had a baby. I was like, wow, that is so phenomenal.
Yeah,
she was doing a cookbook. She was doing a cookbook on soups. Meadow was, and she was testing all these vegan soups. Because I'm vegan and so she was giving me like soups, and I had my refrigerator full of soups for a while one summer a couple years ago. Because I got to taste them, and it was great. She needed somebody to eat them.
She's amazing. I love her, and it's so funny you mentioned vegan. Like I can't believe our paths have not crossed. until now, because we know a lot of the same people.
Yes.
And one of our Unity radio hosts, Victoria Moran,
she's a friend
did
of
the
mine.
testimonial.
She's a friend of mine, yeah.
She's great, and she did the testimonial to the book that I'm reading. I don't know if people can see it. The Buddha Made Me Do It.
The Buddha Made Me Do It, my book. Oh, yeah, so that's when you saw that. So Victoria, yes, and Victoria and I have hung out in New York. She lives in New York, so when I go to New York, we get together. Last time we went to down Lower East Side. They have some good vegan bakeries and stuff, and then here we get together sometimes. But she's just a phenomenal lady.
Such a great teacher and so passionate about what she's doing.
Oh my gosh!
I really respect.
A lot of these people they're not kids. They're not in their 20s or 30s. They are. So now I'm in my 50s, and I feel like it's so many of the teachers on Hay House and even Victoria and Jane and stuff. They're over 50. So I love that it's because back in the day it was so ageist, right? The show business.
Yeah,
and that.
I think that's changing a lot, and especially in this space. And I think with teachers, I mean, this is just my kind of opinion, because there was a point where Hay House was really trying to reel in, let's get the younger crowd, let's get the millennials. And I always thought, well, I think you have to be kicked around a little bit before you really start asking yourself those big questions. Like when you're in your 20s and 30s, maybe you don't really think of those things, but then maybe after a divorce, there's some loss in your life, that kind of thing. As you get closer to your 40s and 50s, where I am as well, that you start to ask those things. So I think it kind of makes sense that people grow into some of these teachings,
right?
Where maybe they're not so open. When you're 20, you think you know everything, right?
Yeah, there are some phenomenal, like Kyle Gray. He started young. He's phenomenal teacher. But in general, I don't think they don't have the life experience, and they don't have that body of work and everything. So it's good. As a teacher, you want that wisdom, that older, the crone. To teach
the crone, right? As I feel I'm approaching that.
Me too. I'm embracing the crone. So tell everybody more about what you're doing now. So you're not involved in Hay House at all now. Is that right?
No, I left Hay House in 2017, and I helped build up that platform, and there are just kind of some other things that I wanted to do, and I was approached by Jim Blake at Unity, and I had been familiar with Unity New Thought and some of their philosophies, but I didn't really know what they were about, and so I had some meetings with Jim, and he explained that he had this network that they hadn't really done anything with it in a long time, just kind of sitting there, and they really wanted to make it a viable tool to get the Unity message out, and also as, kind of a donation stream, as a revenue source for the organization as well. So I moved in and, kind of instituted a PBS model, and, as like the podcasting world is like the Wild West. Like, I don't think anybody really knows what's going to happen or, where we're going to be. So we're working on kind of building up this thing, and I just have this vision of, it being a resource for people to come and check out New Thought, find out what Unity's all about, find out about veganism, spirituality, Buddhism, interfaith. I went to this amazing event a year ago called the Parliament of the World Religions. Did I tell you this on the phone?
No, tell me this.
It seems like I've told so many people this experience because it was just so impactful to me. It's an event like every 4 or 5 years that they do. It's been going on since like the turn of the century. I think Vivekananda was one of the first presenters, and it's just over 250 different faith traditions and people kind of working together and sharing their knowledge. And I was just so amazed when I went there. I mean, I talked with, Buddhists and Wiccans and pagans and Zoroastrians and Hindus. I mean, it was like this big buffet of all these amazing traditions. And I came away with it like, wow, just pick one,
Yeah.
It's all one. Like, it sounds so corny sometimes when people say that, like, oh, we're all one. And you're like, what does that mean? But I really got a sense of what that meant at that event. And no one tried to convert me. No one tried to, like, proselytize or, this is what you have to believe. It was just like, hey, this is what works for me. Mm-hmm. And just kind of offering it up. And that's kind of what I want the Unity Network to be, like a place where people can come and explore these ideas in a safe way and find that source within that Wayne was always talking about,
Yeah, and I think a lot of us don't want to label ourselves as one thing because there's so many amazing things from each thing that you mentioned. So it's there's this wonderful guy called Shaheen Miro, and he did a book with Teresa Reed called Tarot for Troubled Times. And Shaheen and I were talking the other day. He was on my show, and he says he calls himself a spiritual nomad because, not one label fits, like me too. Right. You're seeing in my book, I'm trying this, I'm trying that, so it's hard to, like when I was baptized Catholic, and as an adult, I got married in the Catholic Church with my husband, but he'll say, well, you're Catholic. And I'm like, well, sort of. I mean, not, and he was, what do you mean, sort of? How can you be sort of? I said, well, I'm not following everything, but I do like this. And so I'm just, I'm an eclectic spiritual nomad, I guess.
No, I love that. I was brought up Catholic as well. And when I was young, I mean, thankfully, I didn't have a horrible experience with Catholicism. I thought the nuns were like magical beings.
Oh, how cool.
I thought they had magic powers, and I remember in second grade I wanted to be one, and I drew a picture of a nun, and the teacher was like, why would you, 8-year-old want to be a nun, But of course that career path changed, although sometimes I wish I could go into a monastery and shut the door. Like, doesn't that sound beautiful? Just nice and quiet.
I would. Sometimes I just maybe I'll just get on a plane and go somewhere for like a week. And I've been thinking of doing a silent retreat. I don't think that's going to happen anytime soon, but that's on my list because wouldn't it be great just completely silent, not talk for like 2 weeks or something? I've never tried it, but I heard that your intuition starts rising up and things start shifting dramatically.
Yeah, because you're not bombarded with all that input, doing like a 10-day, silent meditation retreat. Let me know how that goes.
Yeah, I don't know when I'm going to do it, but
I would love that. I would love to do that too.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure how I could last, but yeah, just being able to kind of cut off all of that input and noise that we're so bombarded with all the time. And it's funny you mentioned that because I just took an Uber ride recently, and sometimes you get a chatty guy, and other times you don't. Well, this guy didn't say a word to me the whole ride, so I kind of just settled into the quiet and I started to enjoy it. Yeah. And at the end of the ride, I said, I want to thank you for not talking to me this whole time because I really enjoyed the silence. It was nice.
I had a guy like that recently too. Not one word. I was like, "Ooh, is he a serial killer?" It was just weird. It was like most people are like, "Hey," and he was just like,
yeah, he had nothing to say. So instead of at first I felt weird, like you're describing, like what's up with this guy, and I'm like, okay, we're gonna be silent. That's cool. So I just kind of looked out the window and I was silent, and then started to enjoy it. So I actually thanked him for it. The moment of silence.
Do you go to the Conscious Life Expo every year?
I haven't been in a long time. Is it in LA?
Yeah, in LA at the LAX Hilton, usually in February. It's the biggest. So you guys watching, if you're in the LA area, or you can get to the Conscious Life Expo every year, you can look it up now. Conscious Life Expo 2020. It is I write about it in my book. It's towards the end of the book. You'll see. Because you're still reading it, and it's the biggest expo. I don't know if it's in the world, but definitely in the country. 3 levels of all the biggest names in, spirituality, everything. And they've got, vegan food, they've got music, they've got tarot readers, healers, mediums, crystals for sale, every kind of modality.
Oh, I would love it.
You go insane. Me and my friend Karen Dahlman, we usually meet there, and we're just like, we're probably high from all the crystals there. There's so many crystals and the frequency of everything, and we're filming for our show, and we're going berserk. We're just like, wah! And we stay from like 10 a.m. to 9 at night, and there's workshops that are, and then they have ufology people, and George Nouri's always there with his crew, and Jimmy Church, and so it's everything from the most woo-woo to the alien people to Alan Steinfeld comes, and just all these cool people, and you can meet everybody, and you can dress. It's like all your woo-woo people. You cannot be weird there. You could dress as, like a fairy or whatever you want to do. It's just phenomenal. It's what I look forward to every year the most.
Being in that space with all those people, kind of like your like-minded tribe.
Yes.
It's just so energizing. It's so affirming to chat with people that don't think that, what is this person a little, odd or
right.
off or something like that, because you're with like-minded people. I just did another great event. Also, I'm working with Liz Dawn, who does Celebrate Your Life.
Okay.
And Unity has entered into a media sponsorship with her. We did a great event in March, the International Women's Summit, and that was just incredible. So many amazing teachers were there, too. But yeah, being in those big events is so fun.
Right. But yeah, these events, some people don't think about them, and even if you're in another state or whatever, they've got to have something near you. And it really just kind of connects you with, like you said, with your tribe and what's going on. And so it's
great. I mean, I think that social media has been really, great and instrumental in linking people and giving people a platform and a voice and an ability to find like-minded people and share teachings and stories. One of the things we're trying to do at Unity, Unity's based in Kansas City, Missouri. It's like smack in the middle of the country, you know. Yeah. And they have an amazing campus there, and we're trying to kind of reinvigorate the events there and bring different teachers to Unity. We just did an event this year with a medium, Suzanne Giesman, who's incredible, and it's sold out. So I think that there's definitely in those places. I mean, we're spoiled. Come on, we're in California, where we have access to all this great stuff. And it's not that easy for some people, so it's something we're definitely trying to bring more of to Unity Village, which is a really cool place. If you happen to be in Kansas City, you might want to check it out.
Wow, Unity Village, so it's an actual place, campus kind of thing.
It's huge, yeah. The Fillmores that were at the forefront of the Unity movement back in the turn of the century were big fans of Emerson, and also big vegetarians, at that time, which was very weird in the heart of beef country, to be a vegetarian. So they kind of promoted these New Thought teachings, just a different view of Christianity in a way, very open, kind of practical spirituality. And they just have a ton of land out there, and they built this beautiful campus with rose gardens and fountains and all this stuff.
I'm so amazed in these when I listen to Hay House Radio and the people call in, so it could be Michael Neal or it could be Carol, anybody. They ask questions, and these people can answer anything. Like, because then what I do is, like, I'm a coach and a matchmaker, and people look to me for dating and stuff, and then whenever I hear somebody call in with a question, I think, okay, how would I answer that? And so many of the times it's like, hell, I don't know. I don't know what in the heck I would say, and they have a perfect answer for everything. I just admire everybody they have there is just so spot on with just in tune. I don't know, they're just great.
It's a great lineup. I mean, they still have pretty much the same lineup from when I left. I think they brought on a few new teachers,
right?
But I know John Holland's been doing his show for like 12 years. Denise Lynn was the first person that I brought on when I came on there, and she just embraced the medium. I mean, she was like, oh, I love it.
And I love Sandra Ann Taylor and Sharon Ann Klingler, the sisters. I love their show, and I'm also taking an online oracle card, tarot card course, and they're part of it. And then their books, and I've got their deck, and they're to the Akashic Records. But they've got a great show, and when people call in for readings, and it's just.
I'm so glad you mentioned them, because I think they're kind of like a hidden secret. That their teachings are just so great. They're both so amazing, and they're twins.
Yeah.
I actually had one of the most incredible mediumship readings with Sharon Klingler. That was amazing.
Wow.
I mean, she described like a ring I had, and my mother's personality, and I mean, just really in-depth stuff that was really validating to me.
And are you having a lot of the Hay House people on your show at Unity?
I try to. I mean, I still have a great connection with the Hay House people there. So I just had an amazing conversation with Megan Watterson, who wrote a book about Mary Magdalene, and it'll just blow your mind when you read that. And she's so passionate about these teachings and having Mary's voice be heard. So I really enjoyed that. That was the last book that I read that really kind of struck me.
She channels. Does she channel Mary Magdalene? Is that what it? Or?
No. She's like a theologian. She's a Harvard-trained divinity school graduate, and she just went and did all of this research about Mary Magdalene and the pieces of the Bible that are taken out, that people don't realize, how many things were written and rewritten over time. and Mary's voice was kind of, omitted
Right.
from a lot of things.
But
it's just fascinating stuff.
What did she say about, so I always hear about that, things that were taken out of the Bible. Did people find it? The things that were taken out, was that saved and then people were able to read it?
Well, there were some scrolls that were found in Nag Hammadi, the Nag Hammadi scrolls. So there's that information, but the Mary Magdalene stuff wasn't found at Nag Hammadi. It was found, I think, in Egypt. But it's like these ancient writings, and what they found, a lot of information, like she wasn't a prostitute. That was just not true, and kind of a narrative that was created to, I think, lower her standing. And she was really like Jesus' main apostle.
Well,
it's just
she
amazing
married
stuff.
To Jesus? That's what all the challengers say.
Some say yes,
Yeah.
Some say no. I'm kind of the mind, like, I'd rather think that if Jesus was a man, that he was a man in every way,
Yeah, because
With all
they
of the
say
failings,
he was a rabbi, and it was a rule that they had to be married. And he wouldn't. Why wouldn't he have been married back then? He was.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Historically, if you take out the biblical, the stories, and look at the historical Jesus, it's just really interesting, and just a lot of the stuff that it was written down about Mary Magdalene that she was teaching. It's great. You should have her on your show.
Oh, I would love to. Yeah.
Have Mickey Watterson on your show.
Yeah, you could connect me. It's great. I had Matt Kahn on my show with his last book. He's amazing. He's from my hometown, Seattle. He's up there, so that was cool. That was lovely to have him on.
Yeah, I'd love to talk with him. There's still so much to learn, right? Like, I feel that I'm kind of chipping away at things, and other things present themselves, and you're like, wow.
And it's nice,
still more
we have our shows that we can keep this body of work and just re-listen to it for years, which is pretty cool.
I always wonder about that, like, maybe 100 years ago, when technology is just so far beyond what we can wrap our little pea brains around, like, is someone going to find my MP3?
Yeah, exactly.
Listen to it. What are they going to think, So it's kind of fun to wonder what's going to happen in the future.
Well, Diane, I could talk to you all day, but...
I know, let's chat. Maybe next time we can do Skype with wine.
With what?
With wine.
Wine. Oh, Skype with wine. Yeah. We'll do an evening. We'll do a happy hour.
Adult beverages.
Happy hour. Yes, we will do one. All right, cool. So everybody, please leave comments below. Let us know, who are your favorite Hay House people. Have you listened to Diane's radio show? If you haven't, her links are below. Her website, the link also to my show, which I'm going to be on there. And much love, everybody. Thank you so much. And until next time. Bye.
Bye. Thanks, Marla.